If you're someone that finds it difficult to figure out which career path to choose, maybe you have so many different options out there that feel as though they're potential paths, and yet you don't quite know which one is the thing and which one is for you and which one will hit the sweet spot, and nothing's given you any sort of sign or sense that, hey, this is your path, then I want to tell you about the very first phase of knowing your vocation, which is introspection. Now, my name is Joe Yulee. I'm a philosopher. I'm deeply obsessed with vocations and paths and knowing what it is that you're meant to be doing with this life. And that's why I'm here educating people on places like YouTube and Substack. And I host a podcast called the Archetypes podcast and educate people on Instagram. And I also show people step by step how to know and choose their career path and their vocation with conviction by unearthing their very own career archetype. And during this process of work, there's an initial early phase that's so needed and so necessary to know what it is that you're meant to be doing with this life. And without it, you can't really tap into the core fabric of what your path is all about. You can't get to the soul of it. And that phase is one that is called introspection. Now, when I'm talking about introspection, I'm meaning going within yourself, diving deep into the inner realms of your own interior being, mapping it out, understanding yourself in such a way that parts of yourself go like, whoa, I didn't know that about myself. Well, that part, really, that's a part of me? And having these conversations with yourself and reflecting on the very person that you are and the person also that you've become since your time in this life. For so many of us, it's been a very long time since we've reevaluated who it is that we are. And there might be parts of ourselves that we're living and we're expressing and we're showing to the world that aren't really us. And maybe underneath there's a side of us that knows this, and maybe that's why we are searching for a new path. But tapping into this side of ourselves and revealing these different parts that we thought were us, and yet they're not us, allow us to find a deeper sense of self and expand it and explore it and really come out to this state of, oh, this is what my path is, and it was there the entire time. I remember when I was younger, I used to absolutely hate jam. Hated it, loathed it, didn't like it. Don't put it anywhere near me. Right? You put jam on a piece of toast, you put jam on scones, you put jam on cake. I'd be like, jam is disgusting. I would also, sort of hide the butter knife away from people so that they wouldn't put jam on the knife and would make sure that it only had like butter or peanut butter on it. And then one day I accidentally ate a piece of cake that had jam in it. I didn't know it had jam on it. I just ate it. I was like, this cake is delicious. This is amazing. What is in this? And I found out that it was jam. Right? So my entire life, I had this belief in my head that jam was disgusting and you don't want to eat this. And I would tell everybody that it was horrible and I don't like it. And yet later on, I ended up finding out that, oh, I actually really do like it. I've changed in the process, and I didn't realize along the way that I'd changed, or I hadn't properly tapped into myself in such a way where I knew that this definitely was something that I liked. And this happens all the time when it comes to our own understanding of ourselves, when it comes to the traits that we identify with, when it comes to the tastes that we have in this world, when it comes to the decisions that we end up making. Oh, I can't walk that path because that's really just not me, and that's not how I'm meant to be, or I'm not very expressive, so I can't do that. And we have all these different beliefs on ourselves. Now, some of these beliefs might be correct, right? We've built our life around it, and we've been able to navigate so far with it. And yet, when it comes to knowing your true path and your calling, oftentimes it's because we haven't mapped out certain areas where we need to say, oh, okay, that belief actually isn't correct. Or, oh, that belief was hidden from us, or this aspect of ourselves was completely hidden from us. Either we've repressed the side of ourselves down, or we are just in a state of not knowing this about ourselves. And going through this introspective phase is like waking up. It's coming to a sense of like, oh, this side of myself is me. And maybe I didn't take that piece on, and I pushed it away, but now I realize it is me. One very common reason as to why people discard facets of themselves because they've gone through a particular experience, and in going through that particular experience, they felt as though that part of themselves wasn't safe to express itself, and therefore it's hidden. It's thrown into the background, right? Maybe they started to pursue their artistic expression. The mom says like, hey, you probably shouldn't pursue that. You're not going to be able to make money doing that. Or anyone that pursues art, it's very, very few people that make it, and yours isn't good enough to make it. And so suddenly they discard this part of themselves, this artistic expressive part of themselves, and pursue paths in the world that lack creativity. And yet they have that creative ability within them. However, it's just either hidden from them or pushed away from them, which can also happen as well when people don't even know that they have, as an example, an artistic expression within them. And they were sort of given by the world, by their circumstances, their parents, their culture, a way of being that didn't properly represent or exude how it is that they're meant to be approaching life. And so they didn't even know that they were creative because their dad said to them, hey, you should just be focusing on using your hands and you should be following the instructions. Or it was just very rigid and regimented and sequential and linear, and it lacked that life and vitality and overflow that is necessary to even explore and understand that, hey, maybe I should be pursuing this creative work out in the world. And so it's just completely in the dark. And so in this introspective phase, there are so many different ways to be able to get in tune with yourself and to understand who it is that you are. During the process of helping people to unearth their career archetype, I'll take them through multiple different perspectives of themselves. And by going through these multiple different perspectives, they'll end up getting a sense of themselves in a variety of different ways, which begins to complete a broader picture. We'll look and use Jungian psychology, we'll do the Myers-Briggs test, we'll look at people's astrology, we'll look at their life path, right? Your life mythology, because there's a storyline that's going on underneath yourself. And if you're aware of your storyline, you can become attuned to how to navigate it, how to move it forward, and also why you are the way you are and why you are at the place that you're currently at, which gives you an empowered place to begin to change it or to carry on if it's the right direction. We'll also go over people's becoming barriers. People have these different barriers that they need to overcome, these psychological barriers. Oftentimes we need to come to them with an awareness, and then after becoming aware of them, we'll have to take action against them in such a way that allows us to overcome them. But these barriers are things like a fear of failure, a fear of success, a fear of being an outcast and thrown away, told that you're not allowed to belong because you pursue a path that is in alignment with your soul. These can be like fearing that people won't love you if you do pursue your path. There are all these different barriers that need to be assessed and come into your awareness in order to know what your true vocation is, that it requires this deep reflective stage of introspection in order to even be able to see what this is for yourself prior to knowing what it is that your calling even is. So you've got a lot of ground to cover. We also use this technique where we get feedback and reflection from other people in the world via certain questions that enable people to, when they answer them, give them a sense of like, oh, I'm being seen or perceived in this way. I thought I was being perceived in this other way. I thought I was being perceived as happy, and other people are telling me that I'm quite stern or quite feelingless. And only by getting this sort of feedback from other people can we begin to see the shape of our existence out in the world, and then also be able to assess it and reflect on it. Is this true to me? Is this how I want to be? Is this how I want to live? Is this the path that I want to be walking? All these questions, when filtered through yourself, that come through this introspective phase, allow for this brewing effect, right? You start to activate what I call as the career archetype underneath, this energetic expression that resides at the base of your soul. And by doing this work and continuing to do this introspective work, it's only a matter of time before you have that, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Oh, this is the path that I'm meant to be walking. It's so obvious, and yet at the same time, so hidden from yourself. It's like your nose, you don't see it because you've blocked it out. But if you start to look, and I'm like a cross-eyed right now, you start to look at your nose, it's like, oh, I just kind of just got rid of that. But there it is, it's right there. And for some reason, it's been hidden from me for most of my life. And this is what happens. When you go through this introspective phase and deeply tap into yourself, you come into contact with what it is that you're meant to be doing with your life. And once you start to understand that and really get in tune with that, it allows you to then go ahead and take action that is aligned in the world, that feels like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing, this hits my sweet spot, and things start to just overflow, which is why in the second phase of knowing what your path is, it's all about action. But you can't get to that action phase until you properly know and discern who it is that you are, what it is that your path is all about, what it is that your career archetype is. That comes first. And so if you're interested in hearing more about these phases, introspection and action, or if you're interested more in unearthing your very own career archetype, then you might want to explore the Unearth membership, which is a membership that is a course and community where I show and guide people through the process of unearthing their very own career archetype that's individual to you, where you can say like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing with my life. And in there, you'll see the different lessons where I take people through this multi-perspective lens. And you'll also get to see other people go through their own path and support you as you begin to walk your own path. They'll share their career archetype, they'll share what they're up to, they'll share how it is that they're walking their path. And so if you're interested in unearthing your career archetype, then click the link below.